Yeah, and a partridge up your pear tree and all, you saucy old git. We're talking only fools and horses. Hit it. It was 1981. Rupert Murdoch shut down the Sunday Times. American Airlines introduced frequent flyer miles. The word internet was first used, and the Trotters suffered through another of Grandad's Christmas dinners. I'm your host, Jerry D, with another episode of Totally Rad Christmas, the podcast that talks all things Christmas in the 80s. Toys, movies, specials, music, and fads. If it was gnarly during Christmas in the 80s, we got it covered. Now, joining me are some extraordinarily special guests. I've got two Totally Rad Christmas All-Stars here. You'll know the first from the tubular Merry Britsmas podcast, Adam Parker Sibun. Adam, what's happening?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks, Jerry. Yes, we're getting a bit of a cold snap here in Britain at the moment, so it feels a bit more Christmas maybe for the last couple of days. It has done here. Nice. Even a bit of snow in some parts of the UK. I think my parents' house had quite a bit of snow last night, so it's looking like a winter wonderland. So that's quite nice, I suppose, for someone like me anyway, not so much for some people who are hoping spring should be here by now.
Well, that's pretty cool because here it's in the 70s. And so, I mean, it's definitely spring here. I mean, my allergies are really starting to act up. So I would love to have snow. But we have another all-star, and that is from the Bodacious Total Christmas podcast. You'll know him as Jack Ford. Jack, how's it going?
I'm glorious. I'm
glorious.
Happy to be back. I've missed you, Jerry.
I've missed y'all too. Here. It's harder to have y'all come back on just because of the time difference. I mean, there's like 6 or 7 hours depending on daylight savings time. It's harder to schedule, and I just wish I could get y'all back on more often, like I do with Anthony and Tom.
Yeah. Plus we're poison for your numbers, I'm sure, with our British accents.
No. Are you kidding? Americans love British accents. So. But new to Totally Rad Christmas from the Uplifting House Sessions pod. For you, to the podcast fans, it's the infamous Disco 54, Steve Beech. Steve, how's it going?
I'm good, Jerry. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime. I always like having fresh faces, and especially if they're famous like you are. So, guys, only fools and horses. What's up with this show? I mean, here it's really not a thing, but just watching this episode, and I know there's like, I think 16 different Christmas episodes. I really enjoy it. And I mean, why isn't it such a thing here?
Because you've got no taste.
Yeah, I second that.
No, I can't say things like that. I want your listeners to love me and come to my podcast as well. Because I don't know why.
I think
maybe just. Oh, go on.
There was an American remake and it absolutely flopped. It didn't work.
Yeah. Was it really?
Yeah, in the same way that they tried to make Red Dwarf and Gavin and Stacey.
Yeah, and IT Crowd as well. I think they tried to do that.
The IT Crowd, yeah, that one I know.
In-Betweeners.
Yeah, some things just don't translate well.
Is it just too British? Is that the thing?
I think this, I suppose, the British version is, yes. I don't know what the American. I never saw the American version, but the British version is so wrapped up in cultural ideas of what it is to be, you know, from Peckham and in that sort of family and that sort of household. And I think it's just as I was watching the Christmas one again today, there was lots of references to very specific British things and British phrases and words that I think maybe if you're American, you'd be like, what's that mean? What's he calling him that for? What's a plonker? What's a div? That you just wouldn't maybe get those things. So I think maybe it just goes over the head of an audience that isn't just steeped in that like British people are.
Gotcha. Well, I know when you were on, we did Blackadder's Christmas Carol, and I mean, it's Christmas Carol, so everybody understands that. But even Blackadder, I think, is more popular here. Part of it is because of some of the actors in it, like Hugh Laurie. I mean, Rowan Atkinson. They've transcended from some of their other characters, like House and Mr. Bean, you know, respectively. Whereas a lot of these actors are, I mean, I don't think anyone really knows them over here at all.
Oh, in
No.
the UK, they're treasures, all of them. Seriously, they're national treasures. David Jason is, I'd say, possibly the most definitely television actor, most popular television actor the UK's ever produced. Probably. Do we agree?
He's a knight, isn't he? I think so. Yeah.
I'm surprised David Jason hasn't ever really sort of translated over to the States. I mean, look at the other big comedy series that he's been in. Been in Porridge, that's produced some of the greatest Christmas specials that there's ever been.
Ooh.
Been in Open All Hours. He's been Touch of Frost, Darling Buds of May. He's been in so much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of Darling Buds of May, Jerry?
I have not. No.
See, that's what made Catherine Zeta-Jones famous. No one had heard of her until Darling Buds of May came out, and the reason Darling Buds of May was so successful was because of David Jason, because he's so widely loved in the UK.
Oh,
For me as well, he was David Jason growing up as Count Duckula, and
I know Count Duckula. I didn't realize that was him.
And Danger Mouse as well. Yeah.
Danger Mouse too. I loved Danger Mouse.
They were my cartoons. Count Duckula. I was obsessed with Count Duckula. I had toys, and I think I had cereal. I just loved Count Duckula. And
I remember there was cereal here too.
I realized, that was David Jason doing the voice of Count Duckula.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was on Nickelodeon that they showed Count Duckula. At least over here. I don't know about over there, but that one was great. Danger Mouse was amazing. I remember Banana Man. I don't know if he had anything to do with that, but that was just another one of my favorites.
That was the Goodies, actually, but I don't think that translated over to the States either. The Goodies was like a poor man's version of the Monty Python team. Sort of.
Yeah. Well, Monty Python, of course, is pretty darn famous over here. I mean, everybody knows the Holy Grail one. Sorry. I don't know why all of a sudden I had a brain fart. I was going to say The Last Crusade, but no, that's Indiana Jones. But yeah, I mean, everybody knows Monty Python over here. So that's interesting. Catherine Zeta-Jones, I think over here, she didn't really gain popularity until she was in Zorro. Then from there, she kind of took off, like with Entrapment. And
she was in The Phantom. I remember that.
The Phantom, yeah.
Yeah. Entrapment's a really good film. I really enjoyed that.
You know what? I don't even really remember it except for that one scene where she's like going through the red beams.
That's all anyone remembers.
That's the bit I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I can't complain about that part. But as far as Only Fools and Horses go, so it was the brainchild of John Sullivan, scriptwriter for BBC. And he actually had a couple of different ideas for some shows, and one of them was about a sports team or something, and it was rejected. But he had this idea for like this I don't know, market trader kind of guy that and I guess the whole point of the show is that, you know, the only fools and horses work for a living. You know, that's like the tagline, and so they're kind of, I don't know, scammers, or I don't know if that's the right word. They're not really con men, but they kind of just get by and scrape by, and it seems like it really didn't take off at first until the second or third series, and in which case all of a sudden it was like you and I were talking off camera, Steve, it was just watched by like millions and millions of people after that. Like it just kind of really picked up.
Done your research, Jerry. That's very good.
You know, I gotta look up something. I don't really have any nostalgia for this one, so I had to at least be semi-informed.
Have you seen any episodes apart from the Christmas crackers?
Not yet, but I did put it on my queue, so I'm ready to dive in, because I actually really enjoyed this one. I saw it 3 times now, and I read this transcription of it as well, and it's fantastic. So I'm ready to like dive in. I know my wife won't like it because she's just not really a big British humor kind of lady. So, I mean, it's going to
I wasn't a big fan of the first couple of series, I'd say. I'd never, when I was younger, I was mainly watched the later series, and the specials were the ones that I grew up with in a way that my dad watched all the time and me and my brother would watch all the time.
Right.
And then when I went back and watched the first couple of series, they didn't have maybe this, they were funny. They were, you know, quite funny, but they're just not as, maybe the characters weren't as developed maybe as in sort of, you know, series by series 3 or 4. But I did find that they were a bit just not as strong, I'd say, as the later series. So I think that's the same for a lot of comedy series. They take a series or two to get their feet.
Yeah, I mean, you think of like even The Office, which I know, of course, we ripped off from y'all. But as far as the first season of The Office, really, a lot of people say you can even just skip it and go straight into the second. But in general, like I was watching Perfect Strangers again, and same thing. It's like it takes them a while to really build their characters, and it's really hard to get into at first. And you're right. I mean, that's just a kind of thing. No one really knows their characters yet. They haven't quite locked into the chemistry and the comedy style, and so it does take a bit. So I totally get that for sure. What about you, Jack? What's your history with Only Fools and Horses here?
Do you know what? I'm old enough that I should remember this when it started, but I don't. I sort of it feels like it's always been there, but it hasn't, because I would have been 7 when it started, and so I was surprised that it was 1981, and I think I became aware of it sort of maybe season 3 it was, I guess, I don't know, maybe when it did start getting popular, which is only 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it felt like it was always there. But I was a massive fan, and my dad was a huge fan as well. So yeah, there's sort of like three parts to the history of it. You've got the first 4 series that had Grandad, then you got the second 3 or 4, 5 seasons that had Uncle Albert, and then after that they just did like Christmas specials. And they were always longer, like an hour or so long. But I guess I was sort of the early days. I was there, like sort of, when Grandad was in it. I remember that, and I remember when he died, and they wrote that into the script as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was reading that, and I'm actually anxious to see it. I just saw on Who's the Boss the other day, because we've been rewatching it, my wife and I, when James Coco, who played Tony's father-in-law, passed away, and so then they wrote that into the script as well. And so I like when they do that. Same thing with like Mr. Hooper on Sesame Street, when they really try to incorporate that kind of real life event, and not, I don't want to say capitalize on it, because I mean, I guess that's technically what they're doing, but really they're just trying to have some closure, I think, for the rest of the cast members. So I like when they do that, because in general, you really get this kind of heartfelt, emotional, just episode that's usually one of the strongest of the series, is what I've found. What about you, Steve?
Very similar to Jack. I remember growing up with it. I remember watching the episodes when Grandad died, and then the transition over to Uncle Albert, and then I have very strong memories of all the family getting round at Christmas and making a point of watching Only Fools and Horses. And it just seemed like everybody did. Very strong memories on Boxing Day of having a picky tea, and Only Fools and Horses, that's what you did.
Nice. Boxing Day. Love it. We don't have Boxing Day over here, so it's
you guys are missing out. You need Boxing Day.
It's what I hear. I mean, I know there's lots of cool sales and all sorts of stuff, and yeah, I wouldn't mind having a Boxing Day, but I'm usually working, so
it's just a great day to sort of, it's like a second Christmas Day, but without all the stress of Christmas Day. It's just a day to just completely slob out, do what you want, potentially. You might maybe see other family, but mostly just eat pretty much and watch television. It's sometimes I kind of prefer it to Christmas Day, which is a bit of blasphemy, maybe, as a Christmas fan. It's just something about it that's just like no pressure. Just, it's Boxing Day. Just do what you want. There's no necessary requirements sometimes that might come with Christmas Day.
Nice.
It's everything that's good about Christmas Day with none of the pressure.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, we, I work at a Christmas store, so we have the 23rd, 24th, and 25th off. The 26th, of course, we're back crazy early, and we're working long hours that day because everybody's coming in to try to get some sort of sale. So, so that's what I'm used to. I wouldn't mind having a Boxing Day, honestly, just so I could recover, because it's like Christmas, bam, work. So I don't mind. I mean, that sounds amazing to me.
Maybe there needs to be some sort of petition for the American government to announce a Boxing Day.
There should be, but I doubt anything like that would ever happen over here. But you never know. But yeah, I guess we can just go ahead and jump straight into the episode here. It's Christmas Crackers, the last episode of the first series here. And it starts off with Rodney, who I guess...
Oh, do you know what, Jerry? I'm going to interrupt you there.
Go ahead.
So the theme tune, I don't know if anyone else researched this, but the first series had a different theme tune to the rest of the show. It just had and it was an instrumental sort of sax saxophone version by Ronnie Hazelhurst. And what they did was they sort of, for the DVD releases and apparently for like repeats of it as well, they used the
original
new theme tune. So if you're watching it now, you'll see the new theme tune, which was written by the writer John Sullivan, and he sings it as well.
Oh, does he really? I knew he wrote it. I didn't know he sang it.
Yeah, apparently they wanted Chaz and Dave, which is a famous Cockney duo in the UK. They wanted them to sing it, but they were busy, so John Sullivan sung it himself. But there was a time when, like, Only Fools and Horses was its massive peak when it was getting like 20 million viewers. This was in the sort of mid 90s, and they repeated the first series again. And I remember they didn't have the theme tune then. They had the Ronnie Hazelhurst instrumental version.
Well,
I just thought I'd bore everyone with that.
No, that's cool. On BritBox, it's definitely the the new one, because there's him singing the words, and there's that line. It's like the titular line. Only fools and horses work. So that's the one. That's what I knew as of a couple of days ago.
For me, that must be one of the most sort of recognized theme tunes in British TV history. It's something like immediately, if you hear it, you know the words. It's in your head. There's so many memories that are associated with that it's iconic over here, I think. Again, it's a theme.
It sampled a surprising amount as well.
Oh, really?
Sampled quite a lot in garage and dance music. You won't be surprised.
That's awesome.
They've got a musical now as well, don't they? There's a whole Only Fools and Horses
musical.
That
came out in 2019. Yeah, his son Jim Sullivan took over, and he had, I don't remember who it was that wrote it, but I'm anxious to hear it. I mean, like I said, this is a great episode, and it's subtle. There's not a lot of like Christmas to it, but at the same time, you do kind of get some sort of feelings from it. And I think because, at least for me, I remember growing up being so bored at my grandparents' house, because while we could play with the cousins, I really just wanted to go back and play with all my new toys. So since we were at grandma's house, we couldn't, and the TV would be on, and we'd just kind of be hanging out the way they Rodney and Del are later on. And so it's just like, I get it. It really like hit home for me in that sense. But yeah, so it starts off with Rodney, who I guess is like, 16 years younger than Del or something like that. It's supposed to be that Del kind of raised him essentially. And so anyway, he's there reading a book on body language. It's so that you can say, what did he say? So you can say like dirty things to women from across the room, and they can't set their brothers or anything on you. And this is where we first get our sense of like Grandad. And he comes in, and he's, burns the Christmas dinner apparently. And he asks him like, how do you like your potatoes? And it's like, do you like them well done? And it's just, there's a lot of really subtle things that I thoroughly enjoyed about this episode. And that was one of them.
Grandad's cooking's a running joke through like the first few seasons. There's a really, I can't remember which episode it is, where Del tells Rodney that he learned to cook at one of London's finest institutes. And Rodney asks, what is it, the Hilton? And he says, no, it's Parkhurst, which I always thought was great.
That's a prison in the UK. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, again, it's that expectation. Okay. Del Boy comes in and says, dinner ruined yet? No, is dinner ready yet? Dinner ruined yet? Which is, again, it's the expectations of what's to come.
Is dinner ruined yet? Yeah.
Just a boring aside about the actor Leonard Pearce. He was mainly a stage actor before he did this, but he's only 25 years older than David Jason, who plays Del Boy. But yeah, he still plays his granddad. So you don't know what the ages are meant to be in this. I don't know how old, because Rodney, the guy that plays Rodney's 20, and in this, and Del Boy or David Jason was 41. Yeah, and Grandad was 65. But Leonard Pearce apparently performed for Adolf Hitler when he was touring in Germany one time. I learned that on Plenty More. No, not Plenty More Fish. What's it called? No Such Thing as a Fish podcast. Yeah, he was like a stage performer when he performed in Nazi Germany before the war. Apparently, he shook hands with Adolf Hitler.
That's one of those connections. Like, what connects David Jason and Adolf Hitler?
Yeah, Leonard Pearce. Yeah.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Just
but yeah.
throw in Nazi
Wow,
facts. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
Okay,
I've got
I don't know
nothing
where to
else
go
to
with that.
offer. So
No, that's
yeah, that's sick. Yeah.
yeah. So Dell arrives, and this is like one of the first instances that it's like a Christmas episode where he's like, "Hey, I got a Christmas present for you," and he gives him like a 20, and he gives Granddad a 20, and he's like, "Hey, I don't agree with the commercialization of a religious holiday," but he just pockets it and takes off. And Dale's like, "What the heck, man? He literally just like insulted me and took my money at the same time." It's like getting robbed by a magistrate. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's humorous to me, but it's not really a joke you'd get over here because we're not very subtle over here. Like we pretty much like to just hit you over the head with everything. So
I think there's a lot of quick sort of throwaway gags in Only Fools and Horses, and it's sort of again sometimes you'll rewatch episodes, or I'll rewatch episodes like rewatching this one and being like, oh, I didn't get that one before, I didn't get that line, didn't catch that bit, I didn't that sort of notice that sort of the way it was said, which I think works so well. It sort of makes it quite snappy and quick and worth a rewatch as well. When you do rewatch them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I like so like when you're watching even things like the Gilmore Girls, that Amy Sherman Palladino, like real quick, snappy dialogue. There's so many lines that you can miss if you're not paying attention. And I'm not a Gilmore Girls fan, but my wife is, and I'll see her rewatching something being like, I never noticed that before. And I mean, she's seen the episode like 5 times. So it's one of those things,
Yeah, I think it's a sign of good writing, like with Only Fools and Horses, you've got a good writer behind it or writing team that can sort of manage to churn that out. And as you say, not just have, here's a big joke, 2 minutes of canned laughter, and then on to the next big joke, rather than have this sort of snappy sort of dialogue between characters. Just makes it a lot more human. I don't know, a lot more real. Even though it's not real, that's not how people talk, but it feels a lot more real than sort of that setup joke laugh, setup joke laugh. It's just more of a constant stream of humor.
Looking at you, Big Bang Theory.
No names mentioned.
I mean, it is worth mentioning about the writing, because for this whole run, one writer for the whole thing, John Sullivan, wrote every episode for like, how many episodes is there? About 60 episodes.
I think it's 84.
Is there that many?
I think it's maybe 64. I'm sure it's got 4 in it. It doesn't start with a 4. I'm pretty sure it's 64 or 84.
Well, yeah, I mean, the point still stands. Like, one writer for every episode. So the dialogue is just snaps. It's just spot on. And even this early in, this is like episode what? 6, 7? Yeah, it's just spot on. As you get further into it, it gets even better, because it just trips off, because this guy knows these characters so well. These actors are so in tune with what they're doing. It's just perfect. And that's why it's so popular, because people just grew to love it. It's just amazing. And then when you compare it with, like, and I don't want to criticize American comedy, and I'm not saying, we're so much better. No, I'm not saying that at all, because there's brilliant American comedy. Of course there is. But then when you get like 30 writers, 200 episodes, it's just not as good. I'm sorry, it's not. In some cases,
I don't mind. You can talk bad about American comedy. I don't mind. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I didn't write it.
And like less is more. It's because sometimes it don't work, but. Is it My Family that tried the American way of doing it, where they had a team of writers and we had loads of episodes and it just kind of fell off?
It feels very American, that series generally. It feels more American than British in the way that it's structured, and the way that it's delivered.
I really like Seinfeld.
Yeah. I like Seinfeld too.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's loads of great American comedy. I'm not slating American comedy at all, but we do get it. When we get it right, we get it very, very right.
Yeah, but this is like nearly our longest running sitcom. It was 64. I looked it up. This is our longest running sitcom. You could watch it all in like just over a couple of days. Whereas if you're watching Seinfeld, that could last you a few weeks. I love that. Oh, give me more episodes.
Well, one thing we normally do is usually most of our seasons are anywhere from 13 to like 24 episodes long, just depending on when they're ordered. So yeah, we might only have like 6 or 7 seasons, but I mean, there's, almost, there's 80 to 100 episodes. And a lot of that is just so it can be sold into syndication. That's really the only reason why they have so many. They just, as long as you hit that 80, I think it's 88 episodes, then like you're good, because someone, TBS or someone will pick it up and then they'll show it forever and you'll be getting those residuals. So a lot of it is like money based rather than quality based, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, got to make a living,
I'm quite happy to plough through Parks and Rec every year. But on the other hand, there's like 12 episodes of Fawlty Towers. I could quite happily have gone through another 20 or so episodes of that. Sometimes it works both ways. Do you know what I mean? It's like, come on, John, Connie, couldn't you have like knocked out a few more? I'm pretty sure you could have done if you'd have wanted to.
Yeah. I mean, I wish there was a couple more seasons of Seinfeld, but I mean, I know they were already kind of running low. As soon as Larry David left, it wasn't quite the same. So yeah. You're right. It's one of those things where if it's the same writer, there is something to it. So it's like on Community, which is one of my favorites, season 4, gosh, what's his name? The writer, he took off because basically he was having a feud with Chevy Chase. And so they fired him, and it doesn't feel like the rest of the series. Then when he came back for season 5, all of a sudden it like really, it felt like Community again. And not that season 4 is bad. It just, he would rewrite. So like other people would write the scripts and then he would rewrite it to kind of add his own spin on it, his own personal take. And you could tell season 4 is just different. So I definitely
believe they called it the gas leak season. I think said
that's
in
right.
Season 5, they say, "Oh, remember last year we had that gas leak," to explain season 4.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but I love meta humor and stuff like that. Now we do get Del and Rodney psyching each other out, trying to prepare themselves essentially for this awful meal that's coming up. Where Rodney's even trying to make some sort of excuses, like I'll say I'm on a hunger strike, or let's say we're vegetarian or something. And again, we get like these fast jokes where he's like, there was something that looked like anthracite and some green stuff. And so, Del's like, well, if we say we're vegetarian, all we're going to get is a plate full of anthracite and something that looks like green stuff. Oh man, it made me laugh so hard.
I quite like the sort of sweetness of it as well, in that he's like, we have to do this because this is what this is all Grandad's got. He sits and watches telly all year round, and then at Christmas, he's the person that makes the Christmas dinner. So this is all we've got. We've got to let him have it, even if it's going to poison us. There's just that but it's quite sweet at the same time as being funny that they're sort of, allowing Grandad this opportunity to show off and make something, even though they know it's going to be horrible, because it's all he's got, which is sad as well.
But I did notice that about Del. Like he really, at least in this episode, he really is trying to look out for other people. At least, he same thing with Grandad. He's like, we can't go out. I know we're bored. It's stuck here. I want to do something, but we can't because, think about all the elder folks that are stuck at home with no one to talk to. They don't even get cards, and he's here, and we don't want to leave him alone on Christmas time. It's Christmas, that kind of a thing. Until
I think
go ahead.
Those character relationships again, they work because Del Boy, he's a bit of a dodgy character in some respects, but he loves his brother, he loves his granddad. He's there for the people in his life, even though he sometimes gets them into all sorts of scrapes and issues. But he's there for them, and he helped raise obviously Rodney and stuff. So he's a loving character, even if he's a bit of a lovable buffoon at the same time, and causing trouble, but also showing his care for them, like with Grandad in this episode, which is always quite sweet. And again, I like that sweetness in my comedy as well. That sort of little bit of sort of connection between the characters, especially in a family like this.
Well, and especially in a Christmas episode, it's nice to have a little bit of something there. Is his French like a running gag throughout the series?
It is, yeah. Okay. There's an interesting bit actually, because in this one he actually gets it right, just briefly, when Rodney's pouring the wine for him, he says merci.
Merci, yeah.
But every other time he's speaking French, he gets it wrong. Yeah.
Doesn't
Well
he
spotted.
fait a complain or something like that?
Yeah. I think he thinks he's a sophisticated man, and he's not a sophisticated man in any shape or form. So but it's that, the sort of self delusion he has of himself.
Yeah. Oh man, and the way he dresses too. It's there's something very, very 80s about it, with the turtleneck kind of thing and the coat and of course all the gold chains. I mean, but at the same time, it's no self-respecting person, I guess, would go out like that nowadays. I mean, it's just you could tell.
Maybe it's due a comeback, that look. Yeah, that's why.
I'm going to tell everybody that Jack's bringing it back.
No, jeans and t-shirt for me, sadly.
Yeah.
I can only aspire to look like Del Boy.
We get a couple of gold chains for Christmas.
Yeah, there we go. Now I know what to get you for Christmas this year.
One thing I want to check in as well about the decorations in the flat. I was looking at the background when I was watching it earlier, and the decorations remind me so much of my nan's house when I was a kid. They're like very specific look of Christmas decorations, like these hanging shapes that I don't know what they're made out of, like plasticky sort of thing that you sort of fold out at Christmas. So they're like flat and they fold out and hang. And my nan used to have those covering her, like every bit of ceiling would have those dangling off of them. The silver Christmas tree, looking as sort of raggedy as possible. That had obviously been in a box for 10 years and never replaced and never looked after. But it reminded me very much of going to my nan's house at Christmas, the sort of the look of the decoration.
I got so much nostalgia from looking at the decorations in the background.
Nice.
It made me so happy.
Yeah, we bought some of those sort of hanging shapes actually recently. So they're slightly more modern, more fancy than those ones you get in the 80s. But
yeah, you're really classy.
Well, the tree, I think it was one of those old-fashioned aluminum trees, wasn't it? Like they were popular in like the 60s.
No, it's not. It's not like your aluminum trees. The American aluminum trees were proper, actually made of aluminium, as we called it. But the British ones, that was just it was more just tinsel. It's plastic tinsel.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
very
that's all
shoddy
right.
Plastic.
Well, that's okay. I mean, over here we had the big gaudy color wheel thing that would turn, and so then it would just change the tree colors, because the light is shining through the different colors as it's turning on that wheel. And it's funny how many requests we get for them at the store, because I mean, it's not something that's really been popular for like 30 or 40 years now, but people still want it, and a lot of it is just from seeing it in sitcoms and stuff like this that have been rerun.
I think Charlie Brown killed it off, didn't he? It was massive in the 60s, and then after the Charlie Brown Christmas, where he made a sort of thing about the aluminium trees, the sales just plummeted. But now that like the old aluminium trees, they're sort of collector's items now, aren't they? They're not cheap if you want to get an old one.
No, and I know because back in the 90s, my parents bought one off eBay, and it was. I mean, I think it cost them quite a bit, but my mom always wanted one. She remembered like some of her richer friends, I suppose, growing up had some. And so she always wanted one. So like for Christmas, that was her present. She got one. And yeah, I know it wasn't cheap. So, I mean, I think you're right. While not so much reminded me of my childhood, I definitely remember having similar items that it's not really Christmas without, and so seeing those, it felt kind of good, and I think it was one of the most Christmassy parts of the entire thing, because like the second half of the show is basically set at the club when they go out, and there's not really a lot of Christmas stuff set at that club. But yeah, so they sit down to Christmas dinner and it's terrible. And the bird is not quite cooked. And
I would not tuck into that turkey one bit.
Well, he forgets Grandad doesn't realize that all the giblets and stuff are in a plastic bag that were stuffed in the cavity, and he didn't realize
sage and onion and molten plastic, I believe, is what he described as being inside the turkey's cavity.
So basically, that turkey was toxic.
And the gravy. Did you see the gravy as well? Anyone see him trying to spoon the gravy out?
Scraping it out,
The solid gravy.
He does mention that he had to strain the gravy. Well, Steve, you're a chef, aren't you?
Yeah, I used to be a chef. I was wondering, it's got to be harder to cut it with the electric carving knife that's not plugged in. It must have shredded it. It must have been like pulled chicken, because those things were bad when they were plugged in. Never mind when they weren't. I don't know how they did it.
Yeah,
Unbelievable. Can you even buy electric carving knives anymore? Because they were terrible.
So of course they're going on. They're kind of ribbing Rodgers about his gut, because I guess he claims he's having some sort of psychosomatic response to the whole meal. In preparation for eating it, that his brain was essentially kind of making his stomach upset. And so while they're actually eating it, they ask him like, "How's his guts?" And he's like, "No, he's just feeling a burning sensation. It's not worms, it's glowworms." And so I like how they just kind of, you could tell they love him, but they're still kind of just poking at him a little bit, because I mean that's what all like brothers do. And so that one really got me, because I remember doing that to my little brother all the time,
especially around the sort of Christmas dinner table. Like the amount of arguments I'd say I'd had with my brother and sister, and usually my dad, actually, not so much my mom, on Christmas, because they'd make a comment or a joke, everyone would laugh, and then I'd take umbrage with that, and then that would cause a mini conflict on Christmas Day, as is expected, of course.
Of course.
Wearing our paper hats as well, paper crowns.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be angry when you're wearing a paper crown. It's hard to look menacing when you're wearing a paper crown.
Is that a thing in the States?
No.
Is that a thing in the States, Jerry?
Not really, no.
See, that's the crackers. See, because you guys haven't got crackers. That's where you get your paper crown. It's in the cracker.
Oh, really?
So you're missing out. Yeah, that's it. You pull the cracker, you get a joke, your crappy toy, and you get a paper hat.
So we have a few of them here, but when you pull them, it's mostly like candy, that kind of stuff. I mean, we're big on candy. So
sounds awful.
Well, we can't all be cultured,
with our paper hats. That's right.
No, usually if we're gonna wear a hat, it's usually a Santa hat or some sort of gaudy like reindeer antler thing on a headband, that kind of a thing.
I'm a big fan of the reindeer antler thing, and then telling people that I've put too much mousse in my hair all day. These are the things. These are little privileges that you get when you're a dad, and you can
totally make jokes like that. Yeah.
Well, that's the kind of joke that's usually in the crackers as well.
Yeah. Nice. It reminds me of a joke my daughter told me the other day, which is like, what do you call a witch in the desert?
A sandwich.
A sandwich. Yeah. Boom. All right. Anyway, so on Christmas afternoon, they're watching TV. Dell's kind of asleep. Rodney's just like completely bored. Tries to convince him to change, to go out, because it's just the circus and he hates the circus. He finds it creepy, which, I mean, I don't blame him. Those clowns are creepy, man. Is the circus the same for y'all as it is for us?
Yeah, I've got to step in here.
Okay.
I actually did the research.
Okay.
Because I'm a Poindexter. And on Christmas Day, I've got it written down. On Christmas Day, 1981, on BBC, they had In Search of the Castaways, which is a film with Hayley Mills in.
Nice.
Jim Will Fix It. We won't go into that. Paul Daniels' Magic Show. And I didn't write it down. What was the other one?
The Circus?
Very good. No, not the circus. That's why I looked it up, because I thought, I wonder if this is right, but it wasn't right. They had the Generation Game on as well, so that's what would have been on BBC One. On ITV, they were showing Dr. No, and that's something I remember from when I was a kid. It was nearly on ITV. It was nearly always a James Bond,
yeah,
on Christmas Day in the 80s and 90s, not so much these days. And in the evening, they had the Muppet movie on, which was cool.
Nice.
And on BBC Two, they had, it was a lot earlier in the day, but they had Charlie Brown Christmas. And I know you guys, up until Apple stole it, you'd have Charlie Brown Christmas on every year.
Every year.
Well, in the UK, I remember it from when I was a kid, but you don't see it at all.
No.
You know, and you never did. And in the 80s, I remember seeing it, or maybe the 70s, but never like after. And that's my favourite Christmas special, actually, I'd say. And on Boxing Day, they had Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas on TV, which I'd never seen that until I bought the DVD like 5 or 6 years ago. I wasn't even aware of it until 5 or 6 years ago. So I just thought I'd bore everyone back.
What did you think of that one?
Well, Emmett Otter?
Yeah.
I love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically just the gift of the Magi, but, you know, the O. Henry.
I know, yeah. A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It is worth mentioning as well at this point that in 1981 in UK, 3 channels. That was it.
Oh, yeah.
No cable services, nothing. That it was 3 channels or nothing.
And also BBC, it was 2.5 really, because BBC Two, they'd have some kids shows earlier on in the day, and then it'd be closed down from about 2:00 in the afternoon onwards. So there was
really
nothing. Yeah.
Wow. Well, we had ABC, NBC, and CBS. Those are like our big 3. Fox didn't come around till like 86 or 87. Cable, I don't recall when that hit. I'd have to look that up. But I mean, basically most households, same thing. We only had 3 channels as well. And maybe PBS, the public, broadcast system. But other than that, I mean, yeah, if you didn't want to watch something on TV, go play, that kind of a thing. Because
I'm just going to go out onto my lawn and yell at some kids and tell them that they don't know the ball.
Well, that definitely translates over here. But while Del Boy and Rodney are arguing, Grandad comes out and basically says he's going somewhere else for Christmas. He's going to the old folks party because he doesn't want to sit around watching Julie Andrews and listening to them argue. And so that pretty much convinces Del Boy to go ahead and go out with Rodney. And so I think they go to the Monte Carlo Club.
That's it.
Yeah. Is that a real place?
No. It's a sort of take on a real, like there are lots of places you'd find, I think, in the UK at the time and now that are similar in atmosphere and style of that sort of culture of not so sophisticated place that's trying to be sophisticated. It's a bit like Del Boy himself, I suppose. and like his drink order as well, his constant drinks orders of sort of a very sophisticated looking drink to try and appear more sophisticated.
Well, then the rest of the episode essentially is just them trying to talk to girls and just ribbing on each other. Rodney, I love him. I love this guy. He's like he's so convinced that his book on body language is going to work that he gets upset and he tries to like walk over and he does like this crazy walk. And of course,
pelvis.
Yeah, just
virility.
Lots of
virility. Is that what he says?
Virility, yeah. And lots of weird grinding kind of motions as he's walking. And of course, Del Boy is very embarrassed by him, so he calls him back and he starts, essentially not telling him off, but I mean, trying to correct him in his misguided ways. And then the rest of the episode is just them trying to figure out how to hit on these women. I mean, it's quite
I've had nights like that.
Yeah, nights that end quite similarly as well for me, generally.
Yeah.
Y'all leaving? Okay, we'll take your table.
It's really funny what you said earlier about this not being that Christmassy, because you're right. This being their first Christmas special, and the episode's called Christmas Crackers. Mm-hmm. It's funny that half the episode could have been set any time of the year. There's no point that they mention Christmas again, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is not about Christmas anymore.
No. I think you hear one Christmas song, Christmas Wrapping, by the way.
Christmas Wrapping, yeah, that's in there.
In the bar, and that's it. That was the only thing I recognised from the second half. I was like, oh, a Christmas song, and then that was it, yeah.
Which, again, is not even like a popular song. I mean, it was decently big when it came out, but I mean, it's not, it really hasn't endured. It's not like Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You or anything.
It gets the airplay in the UK still.
Does it really?
Yeah, the Spice Girls did a cover of it as well, actually. I think it was a B-side.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because here they haven't played it on the radio in like years. maybe decades. I mean, it's really been a long time since I'd heard it. So that's really interesting. No, of course we get the Mariah Carey Endures. The Wham is the one that's always played, over and over again, that kind of thing. Nothing really like The Waitresses. I mean, that's
no. It was sort of, well, I was looking up some of the songs that were in the episode as well, playing in the background of the club scene. Because when they walk in, I think "Endless Love" is playing. I think I heard that. I didn't see that.
Three Times a Lady.
Was it Three Times a Lady?
Yeah,
Three Times a Lady is playing as they walk in, which again is feels like that sort of club would play that sort of song to get, a bit of slow dancing going on, some dodgy slow dancing. And they play Wordy Rapping Hood as well later on in the episode. Which...
Yeah, I was looking for that because I saw on Wikipedia that it's on there.
Yeah, it's really brief. You hear in the background, I think as they're walking to a table or something. But was I don't know. I love that song. I really, really like that song. But I think it's just an odd choice almost for this sort of show and this sort of episode.
Yeah, apparently they changed it because when it originally aired, it was Jane Fonda Walkout Zen and Lights.
I think I read that. Yeah.
Yeah. I only read it yesterday. And they changed it for Wordy Rapping Hood, which I'd never heard of. And I'd heard of it, but I didn't know the song. I listened to it just this evening. And didn't care for it. There you go.
Nice. I mean, I guess, if you're a club open on Christmas Day, maybe have a couple of Christmas tunes here and there. Maybe not just the one Waitress song, but maybe not. I guess people are at a club on Christmas Day might be a little lonely, I guess. I don't know. I've never been on a club. I've been to Pizza Hut on Christmas Day, but that's about it. So I can't.
Yeah, I've never been to a club. I've been to a pub on Christmas Day, not a club on Christmas Day. Are clubs open on Christmas Day anymore?
I have no
idea. That's what I was thinking. Even back then, I don't know, because the drinking laws have changed and they're a bit more relaxed now anyway. But I don't know. I wouldn't have thought they would have been open. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I was quite surprised by that. Pubs, obviously, you get pubs open midday, don't they, for a few hours usually for some afternoon pub drinking, which I was quite partial to as a teenager and young man. It was quite a nice thing. I usually go. Sort of, my dad would do like on Christmas Day when I was a bit older, we'd go to the pub to see his brothers, my uncles, and we'd have like a Christmas Day drink with, men having a drink away from their wives at home, having a pint. And that was quite a nice experience, growing up, sort of getting to go to the pub with them for the first, because dad would go off on his own usually. And then when I was a bit old enough, he'd take me along. Yeah. But a club on Christmas Day, it did baffle me a little bit as the concept of going to a club on Christmas Day. I feel it would just be wrong, really. It'd just be weird. I've had nights out in clubs Christmas Eve a few times. Definitely. That was quite a thing growing up, again, as a teenager, sort of meeting mates from school in bars and clubs around town, and then turning up worse for wear to a very angry parents usually, because I've locked up 3 a.m, aged 18, back from university, back to the old house, sort of clattering and smashing my way into the house on Christmas Eve, and then waking up hungover and sort of ruining Christmas morning a couple of times as well.
Yeah.
Nice. No, I can't say. I mean, most of Christmas Eve it was always spent with my family, but I was already back by then for like 2 or 3 weeks. So like our university usually ends like the first week of December. And so then the rest of the month is just us kind of hanging out already. So Christmas Eve, I could just be with my family if I wanted, rather than, go out and see friends. So that's really interesting. Yeah.
Christmas Eve is a big drinking night in the UK.
Yeah. I think
all the pubs are packed.
Yeah. It's a big sort of, seeing your old mates night is what I've found for lots of friends across the country. You'd see your mates you haven't seen in a long time on Christmas Eve, and maybe mates from mates from school, or, people that you haven't seen for a while. You see them once a year, which usually, or everyone goes out on Christmas Eve. And especially for, a lot of my mates, especially, and me going back to an old hometown. I live in a different town from where I grew up. So going back there, it's like, oh, where do you live now? Where do you live now? Okay, let's drink all the drinks and, talk about the old days, basically.
Yeah. We would do that. We would just do that earlier. So, because we were off, and it's like, well, what do you do except sit around at home with your folks for most of the day? So yeah, then the rest of the time was, the evenings were like going out with friends. And so by the time Christmas came around, it's like, okay, we'd caught up, but
yeah.
For what we would do though, what you mentioned is, the husband's getting away and all that stuff. At my house, because I mean, I'm Hispanic, so we had like just millions of cousins and aunts and uncles everywhere. And so what would generally happen was all the men would be outside, with the barbecue pit. And then if there was a game on, then that would kind of migrate to whatever room the biggest TV was. And then we'd all just kind of hang out. And of course, the men would have drinks, and the younger kids would get like sips here and there, but that's about it. And and the women would be in the kitchen just gossiping and talking and whatever. And so that was fun. But I mean, I never had that experience of just like everybody going away and kind of getting away from the family for a bit. Sounds fun though. Tiffany, I didn't say that. I'm sorry. Yeah, but of course we have that whole bit about antibiotics there with his friend that he sees at the club, trying to cheer him up a bit.
You know what? Actually, at this point, I just want that chap. He's been in a lot of stuff. I looked him up. He'd been in loads of stuff, but he wasn't like a big actor. But this episode's only got 6 speaking roles in it. There's only 6 people that have got speaking lines. He's the 4th one, but the barman says 98 pence, and he isn't in the credits at the end. I tried to find out who he was, find out a bit about him, but there was nothing online because his name's not there in the credits. Yeah, he does speak very briefly earlier as he's collecting the glasses. He says to the girls having a good night or something. But yeah, I thought it's worth mentioning the 98 pence.
Yeah,
because you wouldn't get a bag of crisps in a pub for 98 pence. That's chips, you guys call them.
Can we just cry a little bit over 98 pence for half a lager and a brandy? Because you just would not get that anywhere.
But
yeah, I thought I misheard it at first.
98 pence. Yeah. What would that roughly be in dollars? Because I don't know.
$1.40.
Wow. Yeah, you definitely would not get that anywhere.
Try and get half a lager and a brandy now, you'd be lucky. Probably about £4.
Well, for both of them?
Yeah.
In a nightclub, maybe a bit more than that.
Oh, in a nightclub, no, you're looking at about 6, 7, 8 quid.
Yeah.
In a pub, probably about 4.
4 or 5, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Inflation, yo.
But Dale generously lets the barman keep the change of 2 pence.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the old Home Alone there. $11 and what is it, 80 cents or something. He gives him 12. He's like, keep the change, you filthy animal. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of little jokes, and we get more of that sentimentality thing where he's talking about where a woman that goes out with him is guaranteed 3 things.
A well-dressed man. So a well-dressed man, a steak dinner.
A steak dinner. Yeah.
Do you know what? That's actually, it's good that they've got that, because in one of the first the first appearance of Raquel, who's a very famous character, the boys here will know who I mean.
Well, she's the one is that the one that he ends up marrying?
That's right. Yeah, well done. Good research. When he meets her through a dating agency, and one of the things he says when he goes into the dating agency is, "Oh, guaranteed steak dinner. Put that on your floppy disk." And I googled guaranteed steak dinner, and they come up straight away that's what he says in that episode. So, and that was like 7 years later. So it's really cool that John Sullivan had remembered that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's used it in other episodes or if it's just those 2, but I thought it was really cool that he remembered that and used it again. Guaranteed steak meal. Yeah.
And it's sort of a mixture of sort of respect for women that he shows, and then some casual misogyny at the same time. It's sort of, he says a woman's care and consideration was the third thing. He says, yeah, I look after a woman. But then those poor 2 women who maybe aren't as beautiful as the other 2 women receive some rather barbed comments about being dogs, I believe is the term that's used. And
I felt bad because in
getting a bone.
In the script, I think it actually calls them like plain-looking girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I felt bad about that.
That's more polite than Dale was about that.
That's true.
don't think you'd get away with that these days.
No,
No.
definitely not. Yeah, but the 80s, there was a lot more leeway.
There was a few comments. I was watching this with my wife earlier, and there was a couple of sort of casually semi-racist comments as well. That were like, not overtly racist, but there was a comment about Japanese suicide bombers.
Oh yeah, the kamikaze.
Yeah, and an Irish delicatessen as well. And it was just me and my wife looked at each other and went, "Is what? Like, they just said
Did
that."
He just say that? Yeah.
It was a joke at the time. There wasn't any real malice behind it either at the time, I suppose. But now our very different culture and eyes would look at that and go, "Oh, I'm not sure we should be saying that."
Yeah, well, and I think even earlier when he's talking about the wine, I think he even talks about the frog, right?
Frogs,
it's like
yeah.
The frog, got it right, or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I mean, probably not the best thing to say nowadays, but
No,
I mean, I could see Del Boy saying that. That's
exactly.
like
It was Peckham in the
fits in.
80s. Yeah.
Yeah, that totally fits in with this whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they make this whole plan to talk to these women, and by the time they're ready to go over, they've been scooped up. And
I like Del Boy's plan at one point is just to ambush them, I believe he says.
It's like,
He says,
let's wing it.
wait, and we'll ambush them. As he just suddenly shouts again. I'm not sure that's the most correct way to pull a bird, as he might say.
Pull a bird, yeah.
Yeah. To ambush them.
The plan with the cars is just amazing logic.
Yeah.
Well, he was like, I mean, he went through a whole bunch of different lies that they were going to go through. I think, like I said, if I mentioned Princess Diana or I forgot what else he says. I mean, he like goes through Lamborghinis or something. He's like, don't be weirded out by it.
He's a trickster, sort of. Again, I know I've had a couple of friends like that when I was younger that trying to talk to girls and they just be able to spout off of some terrible lies. And I was like, Rodney, I just couldn't handle it. I'm like, I can't lie. I can't, it doesn't work. I just sort of freeze up if there's any sort of, trying to lie your way into a woman's affections, which again, a couple of friends at uni were very Del Boy like in their sort of, oh yeah, I know this, but oh yeah, I've got, this sort of thing. Oh yeah, I work in this sort of job, just to try and up their esteem with complete lies.
I've built my whole marriage on lies. I'd be nowhere without lies. I'd be a single man. Lies have built me a marriage with 2 children.
Nice.
And my wife still thinks I've got a Lamborghini somewhere.
Yeah. We just can't take it out this weekend, honey. I promise. I mean, it's being worked on, I think the only time I ever lied to try to get a girl was I was like 15 and I think she was like 18. And I just lied about my age. Of course, it didn't work. I was pretty thin and scrawny, so I mean, obviously, I wasn't older than I said I was.
I did actually. It did kind of work for me once when I was younger. I went to America when I was about 15, 16 with my mum and dad. We went to Florida for a traditional, British person's Disney World holiday, and we met a couple of girls at the sort of place we were staying. I met a couple of girls at the place we were staying at, and I had my brother with me, who was a few years younger. And I managed to convince them that I had met and gone to school with Prince William and Prince Harry. I just sort of said it without even thinking, and they believed me wholeheartedly. And
why wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think I got a kiss out of it. I'm sure I had a kiss out of it. It worked in the end. But,
nice.
So one time my lying worked for me, and I apologize to those girls, wherever they may be now, for deceiving them into thinking they were kissing someone close to royalty.
That's awesome.
I think the accent just fooled them. It just completely sounding a lot more sophisticated than anything they might have encountered.
Well, especially in Florida.
Yeah, I think they were Texan. I'm sure one was called Brittany. I remember that.
Nice. Yeah. With an I or with a Y, because that would explain it.
Yeah.
It's funny because this episode just kind of ends abruptly. I mean, it literally, they're talking to the girls and, he's like, hey, are y'all thinking about going home? And of course the 2 girls are like, yeah, thinking that they're trying to hit on him. It's like, good, and we can have your seats. And they sit down, and then that's literally how it ends. Is that like normal for the show?
I think it's ending on a sort of quick joke, like a sort of ridiculous turn joke. Often I think happens in those sort of 80s comedies in Britain, that you'd have a sort of an expectation set up, then it's subverted, and then that's it. It's over. You're off with a laugh. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right.
With a cruel laugh in this one, I think, again, for those poor women. That I feel quite bad for the actresses as well. Yeah. We need 2 plain-looking women to be called dogs and sort of to be laughed at, and this is your part in this story. It's sort of like, how would you feel as an actress if that's your character, the plain-looking dog that they sort of make fun of and then kick off at the end of the episode?
Yeah, not the best.
No. But again, maybe
go on.
Maybe they make if they make a living off of it, then that works.
That's true.
That's the 6th line. The 6th speaking part.
Oh,
one of the girls. But all she says is, "Yeah, we were going to get our coats." That's her whole line. That's a bit. She made it into the credits with that. So
nice.
Yeah. You get paid for a speaking line more, don't you? So
yeah, you do. Yeah.
It pays to be plain, evidently. The beautiful girls didn't have any lines.
Don't get any lines. Yeah.
No, exactly. No pay for them. No credits.
Take that, beauties. Oh man, but I like I said earlier, I really like this episode. It makes me want to go and watch more of them. Unfortunately, it's going to have to be whenever I can squeeze them in. But I like Del Boy's style. He he's got the red shirt with the white tie and the dark suit and all the gold chains, and I
believe it's described as a mugger's pension
that's
scheme.
exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
That's what Rodney calls him. You look like a mugger's pension scheme.
And then he even compares himself to like a peacock. He's got to display his plumage or something like that. Yeah. But I mean, so I don't have a lot of nostalgia for the show, obviously, because it really wasn't a show that was shown over here. But
I was going to ask you, actually, one thing I was going to ask you. Do you understand the British insults that come up again? Because I love all of the insults that Del Boy constantly throws out. You've got the famous plonker for Rodney. Yeah. They use the word div, which I don't know. Is that a thing in America? Div? You're a div?
Never heard of it. No.
My brother-in-law is called Div. Is actually, his name is David, but growing up, his mates called him Div as a sort of a joke.
Gotcha.
Because he was a bit of an idiot. And that just became his name. And everyone calls him Div now to this day. That his family, his wife, my sister, we all call him Div. And it just means an idiot, really.
Okay.
And my favorite one, he says in this episode, "You dozy little twonk," is what Del Boy calls Rodney at one point. And that's something that I always use the word twonk when I'm trying not to swear and I'm annoyed about someone or something. I call them a twonk. An absolute twonk is my go-to. But I love Del Boy's sort of turns of insults and phrase. I wonder how many of those translate again, or how many you're a bit baffled by.
I mean, I picked up a lot of them from context clues, so I knew they were insults, but like exact meanings. I mean, no.
Yeah. You'd never heard those words before then, because they don't mean anything particularly.
No, no. I mean, there's a lot of British slang words that I've heard, but not those particularly.
What about Wally? He says Wally as well.
He does say Wally, yeah, when he's talking about the doctors, and so I just assumed they meant, like someone that was kind of dumb.
You've never heard that either?
Mm-mm.
Oh wow! Yeah. There you go.
No, but I'm sure if I asked you, like, if you've ever heard way, I'm sure you probably wouldn't know what that meant, like, orale way, that kind of thing. So it's just regional, but you can understand the meaning, if I were to use it in a sentence or see it in some sort of, in action. So, yeah. I mean, I figured it out, plonker. I was like, okay, well, that's funny, but I mean, don't ask me to define it.
Plonker's a bit different, actually, because plonker, sorry to be boring.
No, go for it.
Plonker actually means, plonk refers to cheap alcohol, so a plonker is someone who drinks a lot.
Oh.
But like Div, Wally, and Twonk are all just the same. They're just sort of generic idiot terms.
Yeah, idiot. You're an idiot. if you're a bit stupid, a bit thick, a bit. Especially, div was used a lot when I was growing up. Is a bit clumsy as well. A bit of a div if you mess up or do something wrong, or I don't know, stumble over something. You're a bit of a div. Is what was used. Again, my brother-in-law sort of just accepted that was his name, and but again, I'd often introduce him as Div to people. And they'd be like, "That's not very nice." I know that's what he goes by. He calls himself Div.
They call him that.
Yeah.
Well, I know it did popularize, like the show itself popularized these kind of phrases, lovely jubbly, that kind of thing. I think kushti, was one, or kushti.
Yeah.
Kushti.
Kusht.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of cool that it's had that sort of, that sort of impact and, you don't see a lot of shows where those kind of things survive. I mean, there's a few here, but nothing like that. The fact that they just endures is a real testament to the show itself. And like you were mentioning, Steve, the writing, it's really top notch.
Sorry, there is a reason behind Lovely Jubbly. A Jubbly was, I don't know if you guys have Capri Sun.
Capri Sun, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Well, a Jubbly was kind of like that. It was an ice lolly from the 60s.
Okay.
And the advertising strapline was Lovely Jubbly. And Dell was just using that. That's all it's from.
Oh, all right.
So, yeah, there's no big real mystery behind it. It's just, I guess it's kind of like saying Red Bull gives you wings now and using that as
Well, I know that there was a ton of merchandise from the show. So, there were like books that were written about it. There was even a game that was kind of like Monopoly style game from the show. That sounds awesome. I'd like to play that. Just a little board game like that. Of course, I think there were several, CDs.
I might be wrong, but I think there's actually a PC game as well.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it at all. I mean, just from what I've researched, it seems it's like ridiculously popular. So why not market and just market the crap out of everything,
Yeah. And there's been sort of, everything, spin-offs and the musical.
Spin-offs, there were 2 spin-offs. That's right.
There were, 2 relatively successful spin-offs as well, I think, which is quite difficult to do, especially with such a classic show. I believe, I can't remember, definitely one of them ran for a few seasons, I'm sure. I remember watching a few odd episodes.
Was it the Green
Grass of Home? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Green Grass, yeah.
Rock and Chips, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
Rock and Chips, yeah. And that was the prequel, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. His 3-wheeler is actually in one of those car museums alongside like the Batmobile and the DeLorean from Back to the Future. So again, that's like big time there. So, that's really neat because I mean everybody knows the Batmobile.
That's in the UK. I'd say that orange. Was it Reliant?
Reliant, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's more yellow Reliant Regal. That's more iconic than the Batmobile, I'd say.
Wow.
It's probably the most iconic car, actually. Everyone would know straight away if they saw it.
If you ask somebody to describe what does Del Boy's van look like, they'd be able to tell you.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Because I mean the Batmobile is like, at least to me, growing up, the Batmobile was like the be-all, end-all of cars.
I think it's quite funny actually. If you think about like classic American cars, you got American TV cars. You got like your Knight Rider, your Batmobile,
mm-hmm.
the Dukes of Hazzard. These really cool-looking cars.
Yeah, the Black Beauty Britain, from Green Hornet.
Yeah, the iconic British cars are, I'd say, Del Boy's 3-wheeler. Mr. Bean's car, maybe potentially as well. Like
I can see that.
Absolute. I can't think of a cool British.
The Aston Martin?
Maybe Bond. Yeah, I suppose Bond's Aston Martin is the only one that comes close.
Maybe Lady Penelope's pink Rolls-Royce?
Yeah, but the classic Thunderbirds. Yeah. For me, Brum is a classic British car, I think of. I don't know if you have any idea what Brum is, Jerry.
Do not. No.
It's a kids' TV show about this basically sentient car that drives around on adventures. And it's this little old, almost, looks like a very old-fashioned little sort of car. But that is seared in my head. I met Brum once, and it was a great day for a young Adam meeting Brum.
That's cool.
It's funny you say about the Batmobile because in the later seasons of Only Fools and Horses, they bought another car, and it was a green Ford Capri. And Rodney, and was it? He called it because it was a Capri gear and
lime green.
That's it, lime green. And Del Boy always used to refer to it as the Capri gear, but Rodney always called it the Pratmobile.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, I don't have very much nostalgia at all for this, but it does make me wonder, what would you guys say would be your happiest memory or moment of the show?
Do you know, first time I watched this was just before Christmas, and I think I wasn't aware of it until I saw it on your list of TV shows you wanted to look at in the future. So I thought, do you know what, I'll have a gander at that. And that was the first time I'd seen it. I don't think I'd ever seen. I don't think it gets repeated, not on BBC anyway. So my happiest memory is from about December last year.
Nice.
I think for me, just the show in general, and I think I do remember watching this one when I was younger because my dad used to watch it quite a lot and obsessively. He really loved the show. So I just always watch it with him. So it just reminds me of sort of Christmas chilling and sort of watching with my dad on the sofa at Christmas. Again, it's one of the shows, a bit like Blackadder, that we'd always watch together. Nice. And he'd put on and we'd sit down and watch it as like me and my dad and my brother as well. Mom wasn't such a big fan of it. She didn't mind it, but it was like me and my dad thing. So it was sort of takes me back to sort of sitting a bit like, I suppose, my dad would sit on the sofa with the Radio Times falling asleep as well at the same time, a bit like Del Boy. So it's that sort of nostalgia for me.
That's cool.
Yeah, when I was watching it and just seeing Del Boy sat there asleep with the Radio Times on him and just past Christmases and the nostalgia of thinking about my dad and being asleep on Boxing Day afternoon or Christmas Day afternoon with the Radio Times across his chest. Now, because I'm getting old, I fall asleep on Christmas Day afternoon or Boxing Day afternoon with the Radio Times across my chest.
That's the TV guide for your American listeners.
I gotcha. Okay.
Can I just say, actually, I don't know when this was filmed, but that is the Radio Times he's got on his chest is the Radio Times from 1981.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's authentic.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know how the Radio Times are still in business because nobody ever buys it apart from the Christmas.
Yeah. The Christmas. Yeah.
I wouldn't ever buy it at all apart from that. And I wouldn't ever want to go through Christmas without a Radio Times.
They must just make all their money at Christmas.
Yeah.
Could
I
be.
only ever buy it, read it once, then it gets stashed somewhere for the rest of the Christmas season until I find it again around about usually now. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to bin that.
Yeah, my mum has made a good use. So she started, when she gets new Christmas lights, she rolls up the Radio Times into like a really sort of cylinder and then wraps Christmas lights around it to be put away for next year. So she's got about, so many strings of Christmas lights and they're all wrapped around previous Radio Times. So when she's like getting it all out, she's finding like, 10 years previous 2010 copy of the Radio Times, which is quite nice. It's quite obviously
time capsule.
Yeah, it's a bit of a time capsule.
Did I imagine this? Did you do a segment on the Radio Times, Adam?
Yeah, I did one just before this Christmas. I think it was November, maybe start of November.
It's iconic, isn't it? That's the one. Nearly everyone goes for the Radio Times, not the ITV, whatever that's called. That's the TV Times, isn't it?
TV Times.
The ITV one's the TV Times. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's become a symbol of British Christmas as much as as anything else.
Nice.
Check out my episode on it if you haven't heard it. Yeah,
it's very good.
Right on.
Seal of approval.
Well, now we come to my favorite part of the show, which is a little segment I like to call "Gag Me with the Spoon." I do owe you guys some stickers. Like I said, they're waiting. They're literally in my backpack, so I just need to send them to you.
Do you know what, Jerry? I'm just sick of your lies.
Hey, I thought you liked lies. You liked Del Boy.
Oh yeah, no, I like my lies. I'm sick of your lies. My lies are good lies. Your lies are just because this sticker. I keep telling my wife about this sticker, and she's like, "This is more of your lies, like the Lamborghini." I'm like, "The Lamborghini's true. The sticker's a lie." But
either way,
because I left a review for you as well.
You
so
did.
This is the thing. I bet
Adam
Adam
I owe you six.
I bet Stephen didn't. These guys coming on your show.
You know what? They're in the mail.
Don't interrupt me.
They're in the mail.
Jerry, I'm furious at you. I want my sticker.
They're in the mail. Yeah.
You haven't even asked my address. Oh, you did actually, didn't you?
I did. Yeah.
I'll take it back. And I said no. I'm not having you stalking me.
Well, either way, whether we get stickers or not, it's time for Gag Me with the Spoon. So this is where we do our best impression of our least favorite part of the episode. So just kind of set it up for us, and I'll let y'all as the guests go first. Steve, you want to go first?
Really, really dumb.
Okay, well then, whoever would like to go first, go ahead.
I'll go first if no one else wants to. Again, some of the bits I really didn't like was the casual racism, but I don't particularly want to say those lines either.
Yeah,
because I don't want to get cancelled. I'd like to continue with as Christmas podcaster for a while, please. But there was one that's a bit more, I'd say, misogynistic than racist. So, but this is me, obviously as Del Boy, a very
please don't cancel
Peckham
Adam.
accent. Yeah, please. And this is when he is insulting Rodney for having dated a certain type of girl and uses a very nasty term about them, which is why I don't like this line, even though it's in his usual insulting style. He says, leave it off, Rodney. You've had more dogs than Crufts.
You get that, Jerry?
Yeah, is Crufts a thing? No, another,
Crufts is like the biggest dog show, I think, in the world, probably.
Must be.
Definitely in the UK. It's like a big thing.
I was thinking pet store, but that makes sense. Yeah, so
it's a big dog show. It's like televised and everything.
It's on TV every year. It's just lots of different, basically, dog talent competition and best breeds and all sorts
like best in show and stuff like that. Yeah.
I
gotcha.
It's absolutely huge over here.
Nice. It's good. All right. Well, Jack, you're up.
I just wasn't a fan of the scene with Earl at the bar, the guy that's like a real downer, sadly. So I'm going to do the bit where they first meet him at the bar and he goes, because I think it's his voice makes me feel just a bit, it's not the most uplifting episode anyway.
Right.
And his voice just makes it feel even worse. He goes, "All right, Del Boy, nice Christmas."
That's spot on.
It's better than the one I did last time, and I was trying to sing like Grace Jones.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember that for Pee Wee's Playhouse. Yeah, that was a good one. All right, Steve.
So there's a part where Del's asleep in the chair, and Rodney is just wandering around, just saying that he's bored. Who's he saying it to? Grandad's not there. Del's asleep. The TV's on. It just makes no sense. I understand that he's saying it to us, but there's better ways of it. It could have been a completely visual gag, and it would have been better and funnier. It's just really irritating to watch him do it, and he's just going, bored, 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 bored. And then he blows like a party blower. So it's just bored, bored, bored. It's just, is that really? This is what...
Nice.
Terrible.
Well, I actually pulled something from that scene as well. And it's only because, I'm going to do my best Del Boy, and I apologize to every English person out there for this terrible accent that I'm about to try. But it's from that same scene. And, he's complaining that he's bored to Del. And so Del goes, everyone's bored. Christmas is a religious festival. It's meant to be boring. Anyway, that was terrible. I'm sorry.
That made me angry because your accent was better than mine.
Oh, man. Those are great, guys. But, it does make me wonder. G.I. Joe, they taught us that knowing is half the battle. What do you think the other half is?
It's knowing.
Remembering to take the giblets out of the turkey.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good
Best.
I didn't steal yours, did I, Steve?
I just got in there first, mate.
That's okay. You can both have the same one.
Did they both get picked up, though? Did they both get picked up on your mic? Did you hear them both?
I heard most of what Steve was going for, yeah.
Oh, no. Well done, Stephen.
What about you, Adam?
I think the other half of the battle is that it's probably just better to stay in and watch The Sound of Music on Christmas Day.
That's really similar to mine, actually, which was if knowing's half, the other half is going out and gallivanting so you don't sit around watching Julie Andrews. Oh, man. Guys, it's been so much fun talking with y'all. I've learned a lot, and I'm really excited to continue watching the show. But tell me about y'all's shows, plug away. I'm excited to hear about them.
So I am the host of Merry Britsmas, which is a Christmas podcast all about British Christmas things. In each episode, I split it into 3, where I usually explore a British Christmas song or something connected to British music, a British Christmas TV special or episode, and some sort of tradition or something that's very British in its nature or history. I put an episode out each month at the moment, and then at Christmas time I'll have a few more. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. You just search Merry Britsmas and you'll be able to find me.
Right on. Jack?
Do you know what? I'm going to plug my daughter's podcast. My daughters, Robin and Juno, they're aged 5 and 2. They've got a podcast. It's called I'm Not Complaining with Robin and Juno. And it's 2 little girls doing stuff.
Nice.
It's all right. Yeah, the guy that edits really good. But the talent on the show is not the best. Yeah, have a look for I'm Not Complaining with Robin and Juno. They haven't got a website or anything, but they're on Facebook. Yeah.
Nice. And what about your own?
I have a podcast called Uplifting House Sessions. It's got absolutely nothing to do with Christmas, but if you like house music, new disco, you can find it everywhere that you can find podcasts, apart from Spotify, there's just reasons, and I'm not over it yet. Also streams on Mixcloud, and you can download it from Hear This. Nice.
And I want to plug the Total Christmas podcast. They actually came first. I did not steal the name, though.
So you're coming up to a year, Jerry. When is it?
April 14th is the official date. Yeah.
Mine was yesterday when we were recording this. So it was the 6th.
Nice. So this is dropping in about 3 weeks. So congratulations for 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good stuff. And you can find that at
what?
Your podcast.
My podcast.
Yeah. Where can we find you?
If they want to listen, they'll find it.
So check it out.
If they're motivated enough, they'll find it.
Yeah.
Only the people that are motivated enough is what he wants. He doesn't want any, easy challenges set here.
I like that.
That's it.
Yeah, I like that.
You got to search it out.
Challenge extended.
It's like the Holy Grail. It's like the Holy Grail of podcasts. Everyone was.
Oh man.
Yeah, everyone's searching for it, but only a few find. Judging by the numbers, only a few find.
Oh no, don't say that. Oh man, guys, thanks again for coming on. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you, Jerry. I love being on here. I love talking to you.
It's great.
Us,
yeah.
The old British trio.
On. Yeah, I love. This was amazing. I feel like the odd man out, but I learned so much that it's awesome. So, yeah.
Yeah, you learn a lot of important stuff.
Like plunker.
Yeah. Exactly. You know what insults to use when you come over now. You know about jubblies.
Yeah.
All the stuff you need to come and live here, basically, or just holiday here.
Right on.
It's all there.
Yeah, I learned Boxing Day is amazing, and I kind of wish we had it here. But on that note, I'll end it by saying, all I'm saying is that at Christmas time, people prefer a traditional Christmas card, with the nice wintry scene, a snowman, a little robin redbreast, not a sprig of holly and a bunch of mistletoe wrapped around a rusty syringe. So check us out on our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you're feeling like Dell and Rodney trying to chat up some birds, leave us a review on iTunes. Not only does it help us reach more people, but you also get a free sticker. Now, don't forget to vote. Later, dudes.
It's Christmas!
Hello, this is Adam from Merry Britsmas. I am a Christmas fanatic from the UK who thinks that the world needs to know more about the traditions, telly and music that helps make a British Christmas really festive. I look at everything from mince pies to Boxing Day to Wham to Slade to the Royal Family to Doctor Who. If you want to find out more about a British Christmas, or you are British and want a hit of nostalgia, check me out at Merry Britsmas.
An happy blooming Christmas to you and all.